Hi, everybody. Welcome to Loop and Learn with our special series on loop with Bolusing for meals. I've been looping for over 4.5 years, and I've just recently really started to understand how to account for all the parts of my meal in my loop, and the results have been absolutely amazing. And we thought we'd share those concepts with you. So I'd like to introduce you to Sarah, one of the amazing admins on our site. Take it away, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. All of the admins from Loop and Learn got together and started talking about bolusing for meals, and we hope that you learn a lot from this. Let's go.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's Loop and Learn presentation on Bolusing for Meals, Part 1. My name is Sarah Goya and I'm one of the Loop and Learn admins. I have been using a DIY system since 2016 and have been looping for the past 3 years. Thank you for checking out our video today. Today's video will go over the basics of how to successfully bolus for meals using Loop. You will gain a greater understanding on how Loop sees meals being absorbed and how to fine-tune and retest settings on Loop for consistent success based on the Loop Carbohydrate Screen. We will be doing 2 follow-up presentations that go over more complex bolusing concepts and tips for tricky meals. If you like what you hear, please press the like button below and subscribe to our channel to be notified when our next presentation comes out. If you have any questions, please reach out on our Loop and Learn Facebook group page or write in the comments below. Let's get started. The Loop app is a do-it-yourself closed-loop algorithm. This presentation is provided to assist you in making your own decisions in consultation with your healthcare professionals regarding your own diabetes self-management. You take full responsibility for building and running this system and do so at your own risk. Please remember that the Loop app is not FDA approved for therapy. So let's begin with what we know. Loop assumes that your basal insulin sensitivity, or ISF, and carb ratio are perfect. This isn't a set it and forget it system. As a user, we need to take the time to test and retest these settings, sometimes more often than not, as they are the key to our success. Only with this strong foundation and looking then at the data Loop is giving us, can we consistently get better results. If you need help figuring out these settings, please read over the Loop docs or reach out on the Loop and Learn Facebook group. With our properly set foundation in place, we need to make sure our carb entries are accurate. From time to time, we need to review our carb counting skills and check our portion sizes that tend to grow over time. We recommend using a food scale and measuring cups. The Loop and Learn admins use food tracking apps like MyFitnessPal, Lose It, MyNet Diary, and Carb Manager in order to double-check meal breakdowns and portion size. Saving favorite meals as a screenshot or in the app for the next time can be helpful. If you use a food scale, the below chart shows a unique way of calculating carbs to enter per gram of food. We'll post the link below. This is the carbohydrate screen. You may see it sometimes referred to as the ice screen. This screen is full of information for a looper that I'll go over. Basically, when you enter carbs into Loop, Loop is using something called a dynamic carb absorption model that tracks the absorption of carbs based on the observed glucose change. When you make a food entry, Loop will save it to the top line seen here at the arrow. Loop will start tracking the entry, but as it does, Loop is assuming you might have been wrong in your entry and that the food might take longer to absorb than the time you entered. You can watch the meal absorb on the screen. On the carbohydrate screen, you'll see green, gray, and yellow color coding. Loop estimates carbs will be absorbed within the designated time window. This estimate is fluid and based on 4 Loop settings: ISF, carb ratio, meal entry, and observed blood glucose excursion. It is important to note that Loop will always multiply the entered absorption time by 1.5 as it assumes you might have been incorrect in your entry. The carbohydrate entered will be green if the food absorbed as predicted within the time window and the change of blood glucose is consistent with the entered carbs. The green entry will then turn gray after the time window has closed. Carbohydrate will be yellow if the number of carbohydrates absorbed was inaccurate or if the time it took to absorb was incorrect. You can find more information in the Loop docs on this. Okay, let's get started. Eat a meal you enjoy frequently. we recommend starting with lunch since there is no dawn phenomenon and people generally eat relatively the same meal each day. Now be exact in this meal. Consider weighing and measuring the meal in order to limit the variables. Include any sweet sauces and dressings. Log the meal so you can come back to it later if necessary. Using one of the food apps like MyFitnessPal we mentioned before can really be helpful, especially when we get into our next presentations where we will talk more about fat and protein. Recording a few meals from time to time is an easy way to double-check your guesstimates and look for inconsistencies in your carb counting. Knowing precisely what you're eating will help you to fine-tune your Loop settings. Now enter your meal into Loop and eat. After eating, open up the carb screen and take a look as the meal is absorbing, especially at 1, 2, and 3 hours. About 3 hours later, did your blood glucose return to the starting point? Did the carbs you enter equal the carbs absorbed? Yes? Great! Woohoo! You're awesome! No? Well, you're still awesome, and we'll look into this further. So, if you answered no, well, let's look at what happened. Some possibilities are that the carb counting might have just been off, or perhaps the glycemic index of the food might have been higher, causing a larger rise. Other diabetes issues like stress, hormones, activity level, even weather can cause issues. And as always, if things are off, always consider whether or not you need to review your ISF and carb ratios. Here are a few examples of what might have happened with your meal. The first window, you can see the meal is almost absorbed, and the absorption time and carbohydrate absorption look to be going pretty well. On the second screen, you can see with the yellow coloring that more carbs absorbed than what was entered for this meal, and the carbs absorbed very quickly. On the third screen, you can see that the second to last entry is a gray carb entry with a gray absorption time. This takes a lot of practice. We want every entry to look like this one. If you weren't successful, don't give up. Now that you've found the carbohydrate screen, analyze what needs to be changed for next time. Was it the carb entry time, longer pre-bolus, longer absorption time, something off with your foundation settings? Always return to basics. Repeat your commonly eaten meals until you're happy with the results. You can do it. Here, let's take a look at an example, a turkey sandwich. If you were to enter the sandwich with an absorption time of 2 hours, Loop will be finished absorbing this meal and delivering all insulin in 3 hours because of the 150% absorption time. What this means is that Loop stops working on the meal even if the turkey sandwich is not fully absorbed after 3 hours, aka your blood sugar is still continuing to rise. This meal, depending on the bread, toppings, amount of meat and cheese, would probably be better with a 4-hour carb absorption for starters. If absorption time is too short, Loop will give more insulin up front and will stop giving insulin towards the end. This might appear as an early low and a high later. 1 and 2 hour absorptions should be used with fast-acting carbs only, like for example, candy and juice. If absorption time is too long, Loop might not give enough insulin up front, which might cause an initial rise in blood glucose. But Loop will know to expect more carbs and will continue adding insulin to the rise until the entered absorption time is reached. Finally, let's review the basics. Always take a look at your carbohydrate screen after meals and think what adjustments need to be made next time. Ask yourself what worked, what didn't. Repeat meals until you know how to enter the meal successfully. Try and limit your variables and be consistent with your carb entry and adjust the absorption time based on what you're eating. Check your portion size, perhaps with a food scale, and review your carb counting. Take a look at the handy apps available in the App Store. If things are not improving, go back and test your looping foundation, then try again. I hope this presentation was helpful. Check out the additional links listed below. Thank you for listening.